So this is a story all about how I put up a Q&A and everybody asked me what it's like to be single. And then somebody suggested I do a whole video on it, and I was like, oh, that seems a little bit more personal. And then I thought, actually, what are we doing here if we're not being intrusive in each other's lives? What is even the point of YouTube? I might as well write a really distancing Guardian Comments free article about the general topic of singledom. But no, we're on YouTube. It's a platform where we get personal. So I've taken two of, I think, were the best phrased questions about being single, and I'm going to answer them for you. Now, you guys know that I've had this channel for like, quite a long time. And you've seen me, you've seen various stages of my personal life go on in the background. I like to think that the foreground is filled with like thoughts and ideas, and sometimes me screeching with the ukulele. But I never really hide the background from you. There's always like, I let you know what job I'm doing, and I let you know who I'm dating. And I don't really like make videos themed on those things, but I let you know the context from where I'm speaking from. So, long story short, that none of us have time to tell again, and we didn't really tell that much in the first place. I used to be engaged, and I was in a relationship for nearly 6 years, and I broke up that relationship. That relationship was terminated about 2 years ago. No amount of Tumblr research will let you know why, because I've never put any of that online. But that's not really the relevant part, I think. The most relevant part is that I have now been single for 2 years. It's very exciting. I'd been in a pretty serious long-term relationship since I was about 18, and at 23 I was just rabbit in headlights like, what's going on? So I made loads of videos about being single, which was a ride. Apparently part of the healing process was dyeing my hair blonde and then pink. That was great though, wasn't it? That was, I think of all of the existential breakdowns to have, I don't think pink hair is the worst one. Actually, I think it's pretty fucking premium. Anyway, so I've got two questions here. I've picked out two questions that I think are phrased the best about this, that I think encompass what all of you guys were trying to ask me. The first one is from Instagram. It says, this is a little personal and forgive me if you find it too intrusive. Spoiler alert, I didn't find it intrusive. Here we are. How's life as a single after having had a long-term partner? Do your career and friends compensate? Is a single, independent lifestyle fulfilling in London or lonely? I think whether you're going to be lonely outside of a relationship really isn't something you can premeditate and decide on before you're out of the relationship. And it was definitely like a fear of mine that I was gonna be lonely, even though I am quite like an independent, like I feel like most of my thoughts and most of my, like I've probably said before, but I'm very gobby and I'm not really afraid of speaking to large amounts of people or in public. But I'm largely, I think, quite introverted, and a lot of what goes on in my geographical emotional landscape happens in here, and a lot of my energy is spent trying to explain that. Does that make any sense? I feel like a lot of what happens to me in the way I remember years and things is because of the thoughts process I was going through, not because of the things that were happening to me. So that was a signal for me that I was probably going to be okay on my own, because one, I made the decision to break up with somebody on my own. Oh yeah, there was one question that was on Twitter, and it was like, how do you know if you should break up with somebody? And like my answer to that in my personal life is like, you should break up with somebody if you've started worrying about how to break up with somebody, how and when you should break up with somebody, and if you should break up with somebody, rather than more predominantly worrying about how you're going to make this work, because you know you have to be this person, but you're worried about how it's going to happen. So if you're kind of just like, should I or shouldn't I, rather than the like worrying about the process of how you're going to stay with this person that you love, then it's probably like you're on the road to like a no. That's my experience anyway. And the other part of that question is, does your career and do your friends compensate? That's a really hard question to answer, because when you say compensate, it's like, compensate for what? Compensate for what is missing. So if you've been in a relationship that isn't very fulfilling, or one where you don't feel supported, or one that takes more energy than it gives you, then there's like very little to compensate for. I think there are like default benefits that come from having like a really great partner, which in some ways I really did. One is continuity. So while I am surrounded by lots of really, really supportive, amazing people, the key phrase there is lots of, and there's never really a reason for me to pick some people over other people. Some people have like geographical proximity to me, so I see them all the time. Some people have like a historical connection to me, so it's really great to talk to them because they know my backstory. There's people who I just find this like really creative connection with, and I get really excited around them, and I feel like I know them really well because we have very similar views on life. But I haven't got that in one person. They're not like geographically close to me and really on the same level as me and know all of my history. And yeah, you do miss that like being compartmentalized in one person, because it like takes a lot less energy to think, I've got a problem, who should I go to? So when I'm looking for that compensation, part of the energy and part of a different cognitive thought process that happens is that I have to go, oh, I need to be compensated for having like another significant other in my life. Where do I find that compensation? And it's just more of like a logistical thing sometimes, because obviously I do have loads of amazing friends and I'm really lucky in that respect, but it is different. Does my career compensate for my relationship? That's a really weird way of thinking about things, but I understand why you do. It's kind of like the thing that The Devil Wears Prada tackles, like this like canon idea of like the girl who has everything, or like, oh, she's not married because she has a career, and that's like kind of a gendered thing sometimes. It's that, but actually no, maybe it's not. You tell me in the comments, but I feel like it's this thing of like, she either has a relationship or she has a career, and if she doesn't have a relationship, then her career must be fulfilling things. And it's like, we're humans, we have both of those things in our lives, and one can be going really badly and one can be going really well, and like, unless both things are going really well, it doesn't really make a very happy person. So I don't think that my career could replace a relationship. Just like a relationship can never replace a career, so I can never really give up a career for a person. You should never really give up a person for a career. Like, they're just different, it's just different sections. It's like one of those lunch boxes where there's like rice in one side and then all the sloppy stuff in the other side, and it's going to be a great meal, but you can't take the divider away, otherwise everything's going to get mushed together and soggy. This is a harder video to make than I thought. Having said that, I think I do have a lot more energy for my career. So especially if you were with somebody who had to worry about it a lot, or somebody who, like, I don't know, when you love somebody, you want to spend loads of time with them, but it meant that I had, because I'm an introvert, I guess, I had less energy to spend on, like, working on my own projects and working on my own stuff. And I guess, like, I don't know, there are lots of like couple goals, people who seem to like create things together or give each other energy to create things. But in my personal life, I've definitely found a lot more like resources in myself to like do my own projects. And some of that has turned into careers, some of that is still projects. But right now I'm not like bored enough to get into a relationship because I'm entertaining myself so much in my free time. Like, I can just literally sit there and entertain myself in my head. It's so great. If you want to date me, you have to be more interesting than me, which is really hard because I find myself so interesting. It's exhausting. It's really narcissistic. It's horrible. I'm such a twat. Okay, and the other question that I thought kind of summed up what you guys were trying to ask me was, how do you deal when all of your friends are in relationships and you're single? That's like my whole life. I think I counted the other day, I think I have like 2 single friends, and that's considering I probably have like 30 to 40 like people that I would consider like friends in my like peripheral vision. That's like not very much. Partly because of Christian background, partly because of West Midlands background, partly just because everyone's really super happy at the moment, and I think that's really great. Like, somebody else is in a relationship, right? That's their situation. When you feel like you have to cope with their situation, and cope is the word you use, it's because either that situation is like impinging on what you're trying to do, or you're making a comparison. So what I always try and check myself with is kind of almost like manic pixie dream relationshiping their relationship, because I think I do that. I like kind of like make it a curiosity, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, my friend is so happy, they're with this person, that's so great. Oh, and I start to believe in a very like frenzied, amped up, cool version of their relationship, rather than what their relationship probably actually is, and something that is like great and also probably awful at times. And it's both, and that's fine, and they've chosen it. But because you want to believe the best for your friends, and you want to believe that their lives are perfect, because that helps me sleep at night. And thinking that all of my friends are really happy gives me really good sleep patterns. So I like to believe that that's the case. But it's not all, I know from being in a long-term relationship that it's not always like that. So once I start distancing myself from that manic pixie dream relationshiping of my friends, I stop comparing them as much, and I check my jealousy. But where I do struggle is when other people take what they have as, how do I say this nicely? They take what they have as something that you also have. So like when people think that you have this emotional backup that you don't, and that's okay, it's a choice I've made, but I think you have to talk to your friends really openly about the fact that they might be acting in a way that makes being in a relationship the default lifestyle. I don't really know how to unpack that without going into specifics, and I don't think I really need to, because if you heard what I just said and thought that you could relate it to something in your life, then you'll get it. And if that sounded completely alien to you, then you don't have a problem, you're cool. But yeah, it's just kind of realising why jealousy arises, and sometimes it's because they are comparing their lives to yours, or you're comparing your life to theirs, or they're expecting you to do things or have things that you don't and you've chosen not to, but there are consequences for that. Also, we should all be trying to work towards a world where people can be single and it's not weird. And there are like certain like as the older you get, there's certain levels like a game, like levels up of society you can get to, or social circles you can access when you are in a relationship. And that's weird. or can, I don't know. Am I making any sense? I don't know. For me, I think like good things about being single is that sometimes if I have a problem, it doesn't get solved straight away, because I don't just get to go to somebody and hug them and be like, is everything gonna be okay? Could I have a kiss? And like, that's a really cool thing that you get from being in a relationship. But there's this like delayed thing where my problems don't get solved and I have to sit with them for a really long time and fester. And sometimes I get myself in a massive tangle and have to talk myself out of things or talk myself into things. And it's like circular and it's long because it's only you. But you kind of sometimes get to the same place that you would anyway. And also, when I do ask for advice, I find that I'm getting advice on my life from different perspectives and sometimes experts. So, for instance, I was thinking about starting a business today, and I rang my friend who has started a business. He started a business like 2 years ago, and I was asking him all of advice about it. Whereas if I was in a relationship, I might just like turn to my partner who may not know anything about business and be like, do you think I should start a business? And they're like, yeah, why not? I love you, you're great. That access to like praise isn't always like, it's a good thing that I had that and now I don't, and I have the comparison. And sometimes it's annoying because I have to explain the whole backstory to a situation multiple times to get but what I get back is multiple perspectives on a problem or multiple perspectives on a plan, and that kind of makes my plans or my like problems more multidimensional and helps me solve them in a better way, I think. Sometimes. Depends. It's weird because when I was in a relationship, there are loads of really good things about being in a relationship. But at the end of the day, I'm not in one, and it'd be weird for me to orchestrate being in one. And I can't really bring myself to logically think that you have to wait to be in one to keep functioning or keep creating, because that's just not how history's happened. So I've just kind of gone with it, and it's been absolutely fab. Right. Going to go now. That's enough advice. Remember that advice has the word vice in it. So, yeah.